in size and utility so that an equitable tax burden is shared. The Real Property Tax Appeals Commission is the second level real property assessment and appeals process. Prior to filing with the Real Property Tax Appeals Commission, a first level administrative appeals must have been filed with the Office of Tax and Revenue, the Assessor's Office. Today's hearing is devoted to examining the suitability of two current part-time commissioners for the new role of full-time commissioners. As of October 1, 2021, and the beginning of FY 2022, the agency converted to all full-time commissioners. While learning about the skill set, interests, and expertise of these candidates and what they bring to their nomination for full-time commissioners, I'm also interested in hearing about any new innovative approaches and operation procedures that the agency may have undertaken during the COVID-19 public health emergency to meet its critical objectives. I'll start with our first nominee, Mr. Frank Sanders, Jr. He was nominated by Mayor Bowser for reappointment as a full-time commissioner for a term to end on April 30th, 2025. Mr. Sanders has been a board member since 2009, and in addition to his service to the district government, he is self-employed as a certified residential appraiser and broker. Our second nominee, Mr. Trent T. Williams, was nominated by Mayor Bowser for appointment as a full-time member and chairperson to replace, in fact, Gregory Syfax, that many are familiar with, for his unexpired term to end on the 30th of April, 2022. Mr. Williams has been a member of the commission since 2012 and has been involved in various scopes of the commission duties, such as writing decisions, preparing for the hearings, and he has mentored new commissioners. In addition to serving the district government, Mr. Williams is also an attorney and has advised corporations, government agencies, nonprofits, and individuals in areas of real estate, investments, business development, tax management, retirement, and many other areas of service. Given the financial challenges that many real property owners face due to the pandemic, the commission's caseload has been severely impacted with more appeals. Finally, I'm curious to hear more about both nominees' expertise and experiences over the years and feedback that they may have on improvements that we want to make for the residents of the district and any of their plans for the future as commissioners. And so with that, I will acknowledge any of my colleagues that have joined us. All right, so we will proceed, and I'll start with the testimony of Mr. Frank Sanders and then follow with the testimony of Mr. Trent Williams, who are the subjects of today's confirmation resolutions before us. And so before we start, if you both will raise your right hand, and we can swear you in. Do you swear and affirm that your testimony and any statements made before us today to be truthful and complete?
I do.
All right, thank you very much. And we'll start with you, Mr. Sanders, and then we'll move to Mr. Williams.
Thank you. Good afternoon, Council Member Bonds and members of the Committee on Housing and Executive Administration. My name is Frank Sanders, and I want to thank you for taking the time to have me sit before you today. I also want to extend my thank you to Mayor Bowser for nominating me for reappointment to the Real Property Tax Appeals Commission. I'm honored to share my experience and desire to serve an additional term on RPTAC, if confirmed. I will work with my fellow commissioners and staff in executing this important function for the district. With over 30 years career in real estate, I am well prepared to serve another term on the RPTAC if confirmed. I attended Loyola University of Chicago and graduated in 1974 with a Bachelor's of Business Administration and Finance. I am a resident of the District of Columbia, and I have lived in Ward 4 since 1976. I'm a certified real estate appraiser, licensed in the District of Columbia and the state of Maryland. I'm also a licensed real estate broker in the District of Columbia. My career began in 1974, where I worked in mortgage banking with First Federal Savings and Loan of Detroit. I soon moved on to become vice president of Independence Federal Savings Bank from 1977 through 1981, and was responsible for underwriting, purchasing, and selling loans on the secondary market to investors such as Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac. In 1981, I started my own appraisal and brokerage firm where I primarily focused on high and moderate income housing and commercial properties in the District of Columbia and Maryland. I've had the pleasure of serving on the commission since it started in July of 2012. Over the past 9 years as a commissioner, I have heard over 9,000 commercial and residential cases. I want to continue my service on the commission because I believe that I have the experience and the expertise that will continue to help the commission meet its overall mission to review real property assessments and classifications and hear appeals filed with the Board of Real Property Assessments and Appeals in accordance with the provisions. I am also a member of the National Society of Real Estate Appraisers and the Washington, D.C. Association of Realtors. If confirmed, I look forward to continuing my service and assisting in helping to push forward the current and future goals of the Real Property Tax Appeals Commission. Thank you for having me here today, and I welcome any questions that you may have.
Thank you very much for your testimony. And now we'll turn to Mr. Trent Williams for his testimony.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon, Council Member Bonds and members of the committee. Thank you for your time and your consideration. I would also like to thank the Honorable Mayor Bowser for this nomination. I've been a resident of the District of Columbia for more than 20 years. I received my Bachelor of Science degree in Commerce at the University of Virginia in 1994 with a double major in Finance and Marketing and a minor in Spanish while taking part in the exchange program at the Universidad de Valencia. I then attended the College of William and Mary School of Law, where I received my joint JD MBA degrees in December of 1997. Since moving to Washington, D.C. in 1998, I've advised clients on real estate, investment, and business transactions. Initially a member of the Board of Real Property Assessments and Appeal in 2009, I was appointed to the Real Property Tax Appeals Commission, RPTAC, in 2012. My experienced leadership and team approach have proven beneficial to the commission over the years. My knowledge and expertise in the real estate industry proves beneficial during the appeals process. Even more, my knowledge and expertise in statistics and quantitative analyses prove beneficial to ensure fair, consistent, and data-driven decisions. Most importantly, I've had the opportunity to work closely with past chairpersons and vice chairpersons, and I've had the opportunity to mentor and train commissioners for more than 10 years. I've instituted a culture of preparation for each and every case that I've heard and been involved with in the past. And if confirmed as chair, I will continue that culture for the whole commission. I've created beneficial preparation tools for the commission, such as electronic preparation sheets and assessment worksheets for calculations. I found that preparation is key to give all parties fairness throughout the appeals process. Parties deserve a commission that takes time to prepare for hearings, deliberations, and decision drafting sessions. Maintaining a professional atmosphere for all parties involved with the RPTAC process is particularly important to me. And I'll focus on that if confirmed as chairperson for this commission. During hearings, all parties should feel comfortable delivering their point of view. I found it most important for all parties to understand the process and also the calculations involved with their assessment. We must remain professional throughout each hearing, deliberation, and decision. I will create more opportunities and options for training and understanding of the RPTAC process and procedures. Commissioners should use a team approach to make sure that all decisions are knowledge-based, consistent, and accurate. I have always used an open door policy to assist other commissioners with preparation, calculations, and decisions. Even more, our district residents and property owners deserve an opportunity to better understand the assessment process and the appeals process. RPTAC should have a more significant role in this public education process. In summation, I am grateful for the kind words, positive acknowledgements, and support of petitioners, Office of Tax and Revenue representatives, and commissioners during my term at RPTAC. We will continue to deliver fair, professional, and knowledge-based decisions for the District of Columbia. I sincerely thank the Honorable Mayor Bowser for this opportunity to serve our great city. And I thank this Honorable Council for its consideration. Thank you very much, and I'll entertain any questions you may have.
Well, thank you very much to both of you for your comments, your testimony. What I really want to start, let's talk a little bit about this important commission, and particularly in light of some of the issues that the community perceives we are saddled with now. Folk indicating I can't pay my property tax, I don't have loss of income, etc. So I just wondered, given that as the backdrop, and meanwhile, there are others who are saying, my goodness, I'm able to sell at 20,000 more than I ever imagined, because there's a limited amount of housing that's being sold because everyone is trying to be home or have a home. And so just wondered, can you provide a broad overview of where you see the housing market going as it relates to the availability of properties, and this is a softball, availability of properties and the taxes, of course, availability, taxes related to the assessments and what have you. And we'll start with you, Mr. Williams. You seem really into it. And then, Mr. Sanders, I'll come to you.
Well, I'm very passionate about real estate, and I'm even more passionate about making sure that district residents understand the process and understand, quite honestly, the tax approach to this. I think that a lot of times when residents understand that they're contributing their fair share, and they understand the process and they understand the calculations, that they are not as bothered by the taxes because they understand the process and they understand the calculations. And so I think that getting out there, explaining to our residents what we do, how it's done, what are the opportunities, I think can lessen a bit of the negative aspects to our commission. In reference to the real estate market, as we all know, it really depends on where you are, location, location, location. Being in Washington, D.C., we are one of the premier markets when it comes to real estate. And so again, that type of education, that type of understanding is going to be important for all parties in our process. Our goal is to be fair. And so if you have the exact same type of house as your neighbor, and they're in the exact same type of condition, and one is paying a certain assessment or certain tax, then our laws feel that everyone should be treated fairly and everyone should pay their fair share. And as long as we can explain it that way, and we can show that no one is being treated unfairly, then I think that we're on the right path. I hope that's helpful.
A little bit. Yes, I hear you. Mr. Sanders, what do you think about that?
I think that as Mr. Williams says, education is probably the most thing. If we try to educate the public as to what the city council has already put in place to help them, then we're a lot better off, and they understand what, when you, there are two things you can talk about. You can talk about taxable assessment, and you can talk about assessed value. Now, your taxable assessment really depends on when you purchased your property. Two people can live next door to each other. I can spend $900,000 for my house. Another person could have spent $400,000 for their house. When they start talking about what they're paying for taxes, well, the city council has already implemented a system where they can only be taxed 10% more a year based of each annually. So they wouldn't have the same taxes. So I think we need to, I see a lot of cases coming in where people don't understand that, yeah, your property is worth $500,000, but your taxable assessment is only $250,000. So you've already implemented and put into play a factor that helps people out, but they don't get it until they come here, and we have to explain that to them. Taxable assessment and assessed value are two different things. When you purchase your house, is very relevant to what you're paying in taxes.
I appreciate you all's responses, because I agree that I think the two measures get mingled, particularly when I speak with homeowners, been homeowners for 40 years, and they have not made any improvements to their resident that they really talk about. I'll leave it like that.
Right.
And maybe they've done new shrubbery or something like that, or maybe new kitchen appliances over a period of time. But when they get a tax bill that is far exceeding their means, they start looking within their neighborhood, and they understand that they have to share the tax burden. But what they don't understand is that the house 2 doors down has been completely renovated. Right. And it seems that this renovation is now causing them to pay more taxes, and they believe that they are carrying that burden. Can you speak to that? Because that's a big part, in my opinion, of educating the public as to why that happens and whether or not there is an opportunity to change that.
I'll jump in. I think that you make a very good point. If your home has not been renovated, and the home next door to yours that is similar, maybe in construction, but it's been fully renovated, that's a huge opportunity to not only speak with the Office of Tax and Revenue at the first level and hopefully get the changes that you anticipate, but we are also the second level, and we're looking to do the same. And so if you can show, whether that means bringing pictures and any type of evidence that can show us that, hey, even though from the outside our homes look the same, but once you get inside, these are the differences, then you're not necessarily being treated fairly. And that is something that our commission will rectify.
Thank you. Mr. Sanders, you have a response or anything you want to add?
Well, fortunately for, the city knows when people generally are doing a major renovation on a property, and a lot of properties where you yourself indicated that they may have done some work but not got the permits or something like that the city doesn't know about. The city doesn't have that on record. So if you bought your house in 1976 or 1996 and your property was in average condition, or if it was renovated at the time, and when you get to 2021, I mean, that's a 20-something-year-old renovation. So the house wouldn't be assessed as a renovated house. Your value is going to go up because the value of properties naturally rise. I mean, when you renovate houses, everything rises together. But I think the key is what people are paying in their taxable assessment, not necessarily their assessed value, but your taxable assessment is more important. I had a gentleman come in this week, and his property was valued at $545,000, I believe it was. If I'm off, I'm off only by a couple of dollars. When I explained to him that he was only paying taxes because he had bought his house in 1985 or something like that, he was only paying taxes on $288,000. That was his taxable assessment. That's the dollar amount he was paying taxes on. When I told him, your house is probably worth $550, just as if you sold it today, you could sell it for $550. But what you're paying taxes on with your homeowner exemption, I mean your homestead exemption, is $288. So I mean, because he bought it 15 years ago, his taxable assessment can only increase, as you know, because you were probably part of the body that implemented the law, only 10% a year. Isn't that correct?
Yes, I hear you. All right, I appreciate that. And I've thought we would use this moment to be more instructive to people. So thank you very much. And those are the kinds of questions that I constantly get, and particularly, as you said, people, individuals, households, longstanding, haven't really done renovation that would require a permit. You can change your appliances without a permit, as an example. But nevertheless, there they are, and they feel like they are being penalized because 2 doors away, there is this McMansion now that's gorgeous and what have you. And it's really hard trying to explain to the public, our tax law and our property tax law in particular. So I just wanted that on the record. So thank you all so much for that. What do you consider to be your top 3 accomplishments during your tenure thus far on the commission? I'll start with you, Mr. Sanders.
Well, I feel that first you're talking about me personally, or are you talking about the commission?
Well, we can give us one personally, and then maybe a few that are just in general. Maybe okay. That would help.
I think over the past few years, what we've done, or what you guys have basically done by establishing the commission, is made it possible for the petitioners to understand that we're here not as an arm of the Office of Tax and Revenue, but as an independent agency to judge the petitions based upon the merit, and not necessarily whether we are slanted towards the city. Our objective is to be fair and honest, and we want to get to the truth. If the Office of Tax and Revenue makes a mistake, we'll say the Office of Tax and Revenue made a mistake, and we'll correct that. If the petitioners make a mistake or are reading something wrong, we'll say that. Our objective is to be fair and impartial. And I think that's one of the major accomplishments we've done over the last 10 years, is to let the public know that if the value is lower, we'll lower it. If it's higher, we'll raise it. And we've done both on both occasions. I mean, we've raised them and lowered them.
Okay, and so are you I just want to make sure I understand. I hear what you're saying, and I'm trying to put myself in the position of a applicant.
Okay.
And yes, it's important that I have this independent body that can deliberate on this. But am I hearing that your commission will, and this, I'm just being that, proactive here. And this commission can really change my tax bill? Is that what you're going to do?
Well, it's our job just to find out what the fair market value of the property is. Whatever the fair market value of the property is, that's what it is. We don't try to lean either way. We just try to find out what the fair market value of the property is.
Okay, and so then I asked Mr. Williams, you mentioned that you're very savvy with statistics. So what kind of numbers do you use when you say fair market value? Does that mean that if I come and as Mr. Sanders has pointed out, I'm that person who is saying my tax bill is too high because, why am I paying this? And he points out to me that, well, listen, your property is valued at this, but you're only paying this amount. Okay, so I'm really asking, how does that work? What if you show me that I'm paying too little? So is there a formula that is used?
Well, there's definitely several approaches to value. And so when we're in our hearings or we have the opportunity to educate the public, we're talking about approaches to value. And so the simplest way to really grasp it is the sale of a property recently. And so let me start off by saying, again, as Mr. Sanders has said, we are not dealing with your taxes, we're dealing with your assessment value. And so this is really important when you come to our commission. We do not set your taxes. We do not increase or reduce your taxes. We are coming up with the fair market value of your property, and that is what our goal is. With that being said, what is our approach to value? And so the easiest way to understand that is a sale of a property recently. And so if you have the exact same property as your next door neighbor, and within the last year, your next door neighbor's property sold for X amount of dollars, and it was a willing buyer, a willing seller, then this is a market value. That usually means that if your property is exactly the same as your next door neighbor, then your value would be that sale price because it was an arm's length transaction. Now, that's an easy case. That's a case where when we explain that to a property owner, they usually understand, oh, I see, because my neighbor's house is just like mine, same renovations, same shape, same number of bedrooms, same number of bathrooms, same size lot, and that property sold for X dollars, and that's the assessment value. Well, any other property that's similar to that, that should be the assessment value. And so the approach to value is really what we're looking at. And as I put down my 3 accomplishments, my third one was helping residents understand the process and how it's calculated. It makes me feel so happy when a resident or a property owner leaves our office and they understand how their assessment was calculated. And they're not necessarily angry anymore. They understand, oh, I get it. And that is what I try to do, and a lot of the commissioners try to do before you leave our office. We want you to understand the process. We want you to understand the calculation. We want you to understand the approach to value, so that even if this year you couldn't potentially get a reduction as you thought you would, you might come back the next year with more evidence, better evidence, and the ability to get the fair market value that you feel it should be. And so that is one of my accomplishments. My number two was I've worked with several commissioners in training them and getting them up to speed when it comes to what we do at our commission. I'm very proud of that. And then the first one is, I think that as a commission as a whole, we've gotten a lot better at writing decisions and explaining those approaches to value. And hats off to Mr. Syfax for leading us on that. We had an opportunity to just keep doing better year after year and writing better decisions. So I think those are my three accomplishments. Thank you.
Yes, thank you. Thank you both very much. What milestones have you set for yourself that you consider to be different from your predecessors, if any?
Well,
I mean, I kind of heard one that you were articulating, Mr. Williams, but just, you know.
I don't like to say I'm a perfectionist, but I'm very close. And so I always think about that February 1st deadline. And I have to be honest with you, I am going to work very hard to accomplish that on every case. This will potentially be my first time leading the charge with this, but I have to be honest, we have to get it done, and I'm going to try to institute as many strategies and create opportunities for us to get that done. And so I think that if I had to put out my number one goal, it would be the February 1st deadline.
Okay. And Mr. Sanders, you want to contribute to this?
well, no, I second that. I mean, our major goal is to perform and statutorily get our job done on time. That's our entire focus during the year, to make sure that we finish on time and produce a product that we can be proud of, and the public can basically say they got a fair shake.
So how many cases has the agency processed since the start of the pandemic? And I guess let's set the start of the pandemic, the second quarter, the end of the second quarter of FY 21, I guess, which would be around March of 2020. If there have been difficulties, what I'm asking, if there have been difficulties, you know, can you sort of put on the record what some of the challenges may have been?
Well, I think one of the major challenges is that almost each year over the last couple years, even during this pandemic, we've received almost 1,000 more cases. And so you're seeing an increase in the caseload. Throw on top of that, of course, the pandemic. And then we're working remotely, which I think we're starting to get used to it, and it's going to potentially be an opportunity for us moving forward. But these are all new things that we were challenged with last year. Not to mention we didn't have a chairperson for part of that time. And so I am confident that we have the team that we need to get the job done more swiftly, more accurately, and meet a lot of the goals that we set this year.
So how many cases have you received thus far? And when I say thus far, I guess let's go fiscal year, and let's look at fiscal year 21, which ended September the 30th. Is this when you experienced the 1,000 additional cases, you think?
It basically started at the beginning of the year. We
You don't do FY year, you do calendar year.
We know when OTR finishes their first level hearings, how many cases they hear. And we generally receive half of the cases that they hear. I think last year they received 12 or 13,000 cases, and we received like 6,000. I'm not sure of the exact number this year. Mr. Williams may know.
Yeah, I'm not sure of the exact number either, but from my understanding, it will potentially go up another 1,000. So we may be looking at around 7,000 cases this year.
Yeah, that's what I've heard too.
Okay,
Right.
so you're thinking into the future, you'll have 1,000 additional cases, and you operate primarily on a calendar year as opposed to fiscal year.
And really looking at the hearing season, it's very distinct. We usually start hearing cases around September. And again, as Mr. Sanders said, we're getting the cases that are coming from Office of Tax and Revenue. They've had their first level of appeal. They weren't happy with it, so they're appealing to us. We usually start around September, and no matter the number of cases, our goal is to have them all done by February 1st. And so that is our window.
Yeah, we started hearing cases this year in August. We had the end of August, we started hearing cases and writing cases.
Yeah, so sometimes it's August, sometimes it's September, sometimes it's even later.
Okay, you've pretty much covered some of the challenges that you've been facing since the pandemic. And you indicated you're going to have approximately 1,000, you're estimating 1,000 additional cases. So what's the plan for doing this, getting through this by February?
Well, again, I think we have our core team is very strong. And so I think that we have the commissioners and the team that we need to get it done. We will look at opportunities to potentially hear less complex cases, potentially with a lower number of commissioners. For example, in the past, if we had what's known as a non-appearance case, that means that they've turned in their documents and their evidence, but they will not appear before us. We've had those cases decided by one commissioner instead of 3. And so my hope and my goal is to analyze the numbers, analyze the more complex cases versus the less complex cases, and come up with a strategy so that we can be done on time.
Okay. And so I'm now, my hat is back on, I'm the public. And so I've just heard you say that if I don't appear, then one of the commissioners will make that decision. So it's not like there is a series of opinions that are expressed. One person is going to make that decision. And I'm not sure how the public will like that. Now, I thought because it was non-appearance case, that means you didn't have a lot of verbiage exchange and therefore you could get through it faster. But I just think, please think about that because we want the public to continue to get quality results and to feel that the process is, as you say, very fair, impartial, and you know, not to be, but to be a fly on the wall. Let's say a commissioner is, I've done 25 and now it's 7:30 and I want to go home. You don't want a situation where the person said, okay, looks like the same. Okay, here's my answer. I'm not trying to in any way speak to the integrity of the commissioners. I'm just simply saying, let's be careful when we make that kind of decision because it may very well be become an issue because I don't think we have any legal language that speaks to non-appearance cases, do we?
I think we do. Trent, you may want to.
Well, different cases can be heard by a certain number of commissioners.
Okay,
Of course, the usual hearing is 3 commissioners so that there's not necessarily a tie. The third commissioner can break the tie if 2 commissioners disagree. With that being said, there is the opportunity to hear a case with 1 commissioner or more. And so we are not treating or trying to treat any resident unfairly. Matter of fact, the person who takes the lead on any case, we don't want them to get tired and make the wrong decision on any case. And so I think that the opportunity to have potentially 1 commissioner look at less complex cases is an opportunity for us not to get tired quickly, because we're not looking potentially at as many cases as we would if we had to sit on 3 at a time on every case. And so again, we've done this in the past. These decisions have not been made. We would look as a commission to come up with an approach that we felt was fair, that we felt would be helpful, and that we felt would help us reach our goals during this hearing season. But at no time would we make a decision that we felt would be unfair to any resident or any property owner. Our goal is to treat everyone fairly and make sure that these decisions are done accurately and knowledge-based and professionally.
Can I
well,
add
thank you for that, Mr. Sanders.
Yeah, can I add to that you guys had the foresight to, the city council had the foresight to anticipate this, and I think it's in the legislation that we have the directive from you guys that we can view these as we do. Less complex cases can be viewed by 1, as Mr. Williams said, by 1 commissioner, because the council basically wrote that into the legislation, I believe. Is that not correct, Mr. Williams?
Yes, I would imagine that most of your cases would be commercial cases as opposed to residential. And
on all commercial cases, all commercial cases, we generally have 3 commissioners.
okay,
That's correct.
all right.
On commercial cases, we generally have 3 commissioners.
But we can go back to the let's just say less complex example that I like to use, where a property sold for a certain value. And we have many cases that come in, and usually these are the non-appearance cases, where the owner of the property just purchased the property for X dollars, but their assessment value is more than that. And so they're saying, commission, I just purchased this in an arm's length transaction for X dollars. Why are you charging? Why is my assessment more, which is Y? That is a simple case usually for 1 commissioner to take care of. And 1 commissioner can read that data and that evidence and say, well, sales price is the best indicator of market value. And so I can write this decision and reduce it to the sales price. These are examples where 1 commissioner might make more sense than more than 1.
Okay, well, that's a very clear example, and I can turn the corner where perhaps someone purchased at a higher rate than the ultimate current excess value, which is the the way properties are being disseminated throughout the community now, as you probably have heard. And so this is going to be a very interesting season for us in the district. I just want you both to know that I was asking those questions to get a sense of how you see this process playing out, and your sensitivity to not just the community, but to the work that you're doing. So I didn't go into real numbers of how many of this, that, or the other. But if you want to put any of that on the record, it would be helpful. As an example, I mean, how many cases have you seen thus far? Mr. Sanders said you started in August. And the number that you saw, is it a clear indication of an acceleration of cases that you will probably see between now and February? Just as an idea, because I want to know if you have enough talent in order to get the work done that you know you have to do.
I actually haven't started hearing cases just yet. And so as far as numbers go, I'm not familiar with that just yet. And so that's all I have to add.
Okay, all right. Mr. Sanders, you mentioned August.
Yeah, we're actually scheduled every day this month, October. We started in August. I don't have actual numbers that we've heard. We've made decisions on. I hesitate to give you a number because I mean that's an administrative thing. We just do the work and get the cases out. So exact numbers, we'd have to talk to the administrative staff to see exactly how many cases we've already completed, and as a matter of fact, how many we have in the pipeline. I'm sure we have a lot.
Okay, so you're informing that as commissioners, you don't sort of keep a record of the accomplishmends that, you know, there is an administrative team that has your daily tally and what have you. Okay.
Right, and at the end of the year, they know exactly how many cases each commissioner has written and how many cases the entire commission has written.
Okay. How has your professional experience prepared you for and lends itself to the job you do as a commissioner? Mr. Williams, I see you smiling. You want to start with that?
Thank you very much. I think that there's a few ways that my past experience, work experience, life experience contributes. First, I would say that I have been involved with the real estate industry and real estate transactions for over 15 years. And so when I'm listening to whether it's a property owner, their attorney, or their accountant, or their financial advisor, or whoever is speaking for them, I can literally put myself in the room during that purchase or during that transaction because I've done that. And so from a real estate standpoint, I'm very comfortable with the transaction. I'm very comfortable with the questions that need to be asked to make sure that I can gather enough information to write the best decision. And as you sit back and think of how commissioners have to approach this, that's probably the most important part. We have to ask the right questions so that we have enough information to write the best decision. And so that has been very helpful. I've also mentioned that statistics is something that I studied, and I think that numbers play a huge role, especially in these commercial cases. And my ability to understand the different spreadsheets and the different financial statements that come before us, that is a huge help for me in this commission, where I can then potentially ask questions about those financial spreadsheets that need to be asked. And so again, gathering the correct information, the necessary information to write the best decision. And then lastly, if we go back to residential, I was thinking about this over the last few days. A lot of the property owners remind me of my mother. They remind me of someone who was proud of their home, someone who took pride in their home. And so from that standpoint, I want to make sure that we're doing what's best for the DC residents. Thank you.
So how are we as a community, a city, going to approach our commercial community, particularly our small businesses, those in the neighborhoods, those that are saying that their rent was scheduled to escalate because they were doing very well, and now their product is not moving swiftly, and that it costs them more to be in business than they're making. Mr. Sanders, you want to go on that one?
Okay, I mean, that's something that we here at the commission, we don't have any control over that. The income, I mean, that's relief and things of that nature comes from a body that makes laws. I mean, we just go by the regulations that we have. I mean, if a person comes in and they say that they show their income and expense statements and show that they have not, don't have the same income that they had, and therefore their property values have dropped, then that would be based on the income and expense reports. We look at numbers. I mean, we're basically, when you talk about commercial properties, you're looking at numbers. You're looking at income, expense, and making a determination based upon a capitalization rate but we can't control, we don't here control the market. I mean, that information comes to us, and it comes from both sides. The Office of Tax and Revenue is actually the ones that have to analyze the information, put it together, and make a determination of value. The petitioner actually analyzes it, looks at it, and says, I don't agree with that value. Then they both come before us, and then we have to analyze the information and make a determination based upon the facts in front of us.
And I understand that. And I guess what I'm asking is, since it affects the growth and development of our entire community, what happens in our commercial sector, because so much of our property taxes originate there. I'm just wondering if you had any thoughts about how we can approach this very difficult situation. I mean, it's a reality. If in the past my rent were such that my taxes were $10,000 and I'm making less than $100 a day, what are you going to do for me? How are you going to help me? And my ledger shows that.
I think another thought, along with what Mr. Sanders said, is that we have to also look at the approach to value. If we find that a financial statement, for whatever reason, does not bring us to an appropriate value, a fair value, then we can also look at what's known as the cost approach to value. And that means, well, how much would it cost to build this property? That's important, because if we know that we could build the property for X dollars, but that's probably the minimum value that you could give it, because if we built it, this is what it would cost. And if someone is asking for a value that's tremendously below that, then we would have to look at it very closely. And we may decide that the income approach is not the correct approach to value for this tax year. And for something like a small commercial shop, the cost approach might be more appropriate if their income does not support an appropriate value.
Well, I thank you very much. And I would imagine for those in the public sector that may be watching today's hearing, you are going to be flooded with requests, because I certainly have heard from many in the neighborhood commercial communities that they are really suffering. And so but I certainly appreciate getting you all's ideas today and your feedback, and you made it very clear. I know that your work is regimental. I understand that. But I just wanted to also point out the human side of some of these situations. We haven't ever been here before, this pandemic, and it just, the virus doesn't seem to go away. It morphs, and we don't know, but it's probably going to be with us for a while longer. And so as a community, a whole community, we have to figure out where we're going with this, and how do we keep as many people as possible safe, and also keep them in the community. So I appreciate you all's comments. Thank you so very, very much. I hope from the public's perspective, they have a pretty clear idea as to who these individuals are that are going to be have been nominated for the full-time commission position. And so I want to acknowledge that I have received your questionnaires, which are requirements that address any concerns regarding, I'll just read a few. People like to know that, where we ask questions about the name of each business entity in which you or any member of your immediate family serves as an officer, director, partner, or agent. Then locations of all of your real estate holdings, and then any outstanding liabilities for taxes, fees, or other payments to the district government or the federal government or any other state government. And then if any member of your immediate family has any interest, financial or otherwise, that may directly or indirectly pose a conflict of interest for you in the performance of your duties. And then, to your knowledge, have you ever been investigated, arrested, charged, or convicted, including pleas of guilty, by any federal, state, or law enforcement authority for violation of any federal, state, county, country, municipal law other than a minor traffic offense? And have you been investigated or disciplined or cited for a breach of ethics, for unprofessional conduct, subject to a complaint by any court, administrative agency, or professional association, etc.? And have you or your business in which you have performed with as an officer, director, partner, or owner ever been involved as a party in interest of an administrative agency proceedings or civil litigation? And then all gifts, you're to list all gifts, donations, meals, even those over a nominal amount, by the source received, et cetera, et cetera. And of course, questions about your professional background to make sure that any licenses or permits that you are required to have, that you have. And so that goes on. And that's pretty much it. And I have both of your forms here, and I can say to the public, what I am reading is no, 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 no. to these questions. So I wanted to thank you all very much for being diligent and getting that in at this time. So thank you all.
You're welcome.
We finished in record time. I know you both are excited about that. I'm sure my team is as well, but I must state that if the public has any additional thoughts or would like to submit written testimony regarding today's hearing on our nominees, please email housing@dccouncil.us. The hearing record will close at 5 p.m. on Friday, October 15th, 2021. And so with that, I can say that this concludes today's roundtable. And the time is now 4:03 p.m. and our hearing is adjourned. And again, thank you all very, very much for your cooperation.
Thank you all so much. Thank you.
Thank you.